When the trailer of the film came out, somebody that is very close to me and I kind of like speak to very often, they told me, yeah, but क्या कर रहे हो आप लोग ट्रेलर में? आप लोग सिर्फ दारू पी रहे हो, डांस कर रहे हो, हाँ तो सब्सटेंस क्या है? तो मैंने कहा मैं दारू पीती हूँ, मैं डांस करती हूँ, मैं पार्टी करती हूँ, मतलब मुझ में सब्सटेंस नहीं है. This is the exact narrative that we have to change, okay?
What is feminism? What is the definition of that word really? Is feminism about equality or about partiality? Is it about compatibility or hostility? Is it just a loosely based term that gets thrown around way too much these days, or is there something more to it? Well, according to Bollywood, it's neither of those things. Feminism for Bollywood, at least in the last couple of years, has been a cheap ticket to show women dressed in clothes roaming wobbly in the streets, righteously presenting an image of freedom. But is that actually the case? Well, in my opinion, Bollywood is a place where compassion and commerce rarely go hand in hand. Over the last decade, there have been several attempts by the industry to produce something that focuses on women empowerment and liberation, but each attempt has been severely undercooked and lacked any real authenticity or originality. Which begs the question, why is it that a giant industry like Bollywood still hasn't been able to get feminism right? Why is that actual women's stories of women liberation and resilience are brushed under the carpet, and stories of women being sexually and socially active are considered progressive? Why is it that in still 2024, mainstream Bollywood actresses have to really look out for the right kind of women liberation movies, ones where that liberation actually represents what it means and isn't just a short and cheap ticket for making a quick buck at the box office? Is it because we have given a new meaning to the word feminism, one with a lack of social awareness means freedom and the lack of moral policing is considered progressive? Or maybe because we as the audience are still not ready to accept the ambiguity that is feminism? Why is that a film like Thappad, a sincere and ugly portrait of domestic abuse and the larger consequences of that, really gets the same treatment both from an actual promotional and publicity point of view, while a film like Thank You for Coming is celebrated at international film festivals for being progressive and liberal, while the source material says otherwise? Well, without saying any more, let's just dive in and find out, really for once and for all, for ourselves, is woke feminism actually liberating, or is it slowly killing Bollywood? Shashanka Ghosh's 2018 ensemble Veere the Wedding focuses on a group of 4 female best friends who are in their early to mid 30s and their journey of figuring out relationships, breakups, sexual stigmas, and ultimately their own friendship. And yes, if you think it bears any resemblance to a certain show you watch but you can't remember it now, it is heavily inspired by Sex and the City, but without the nuances, complexities, and pitfalls of that said friendship. It in general lacks the depth that a show from the early 2000s mastered quite efficiently. The women in this fictional world of supposed modernity are said to be liberal, and by liberal they mean they can do no wrong. All the blunders they make throughout the film, and believe me, they make quite a few, are justified in such a mind-numbing way that it will almost make you roll your eyes in disbelief at the sight that you are witnessing. Kalindi, played by Kareena Kapoor, is an independent woman who has severe marriage anxiety because her parents had a troubled and toxic marriage, so when her fiancé proposes to her, she knowingly gets freaked out and leaves. But in this mess of a plot, we are made to sympathize with Kalindi and her friends and all the blunders they make. Sonam Kapoor's character sleeps with a guy she meets at her friend's reception and dumps him the next day, and Swara Bhaskar's character has a rather unfortunate run-in from her husband who finds her in a compromising position, putting her marriage in a turmoil. The problem with this iteration of women empowerment is the lack of nuance and complexities for the characters we are made to sympathize with. Good songs, swanky clothes, and drunk women yelling cuss words can only hold an audience's attention for so long. In the highly controversial 2018 film Lipstick Under My Burkha, Ratna Pathak Shah plays an older woman who is a widow and a journey of finding freedom in a world that doesn't even allow her to breathe. She is affectionately called Buaji by every person that surrounds her, but this routine and the tyranny that comes with it makes her so oblivious to the fact that she even forgets what her real name is. The story is quite moving and works quite efficiently for the message it tries to portray, but it does try to brush some rather ambiguous topics under the carpet, which in my humble opinion would never go under anyone's radar if the roles were reversed. Ratna Pathak Shah's character honey traps a guy who is much younger than her and has phone sex with him on not just one but on multiple occasions. While this is portrayed as her own sexual awakening, and rightfully so, towards the end of the film, when her secret comes out, the film really never bothers to call out her character for the lack of boundaries she holds, but somehow paints a narrative where we as the audience are made to sympathize with her, which is understandable but to a certain extent. This point of never bringing such a morally wrong act of honey trapping and leading a person on with no respect of personal boundaries and personal space is never brought up, but somehow it is justified in the film, attaching such a morally ambiguous act with self-acceptance and finding freedom. The film does portray strong independent women finding their own voice in a world that is constantly on their toes, but the fact that it justifies or maybe brushes off such an act of moral ambiguity is almost appalling. In Zoya Akhtar's critically acclaimed 2019 web series Made in Heaven, Shobita Dulepala plays Tara Khanna, a middle-class girl who marries the CEO of the company she works for and consequently becomes a part of a club she knows she doesn't belong at. Now, it is not tough to call Tara a gold digger. She calls herself that in the last episode, but the interesting thing to note here is how that character and the narrative around her is actually written. Hindi cinema has always had a very difficult relationship with women who try to marry or seduce somebody who's incredibly well off. These women, most often than not, are portrayed as the antagonists, the villains of the story. They're nothing but money-hungry vultures who have no sense of emotion and compassion. But what Zoya Akhtar and Reema Kagti so effortlessly do in Made in Heaven is that they don't write a one-tone female protagonist. They actually make Tara both morally bankrupt but also somebody you sympathize with towards the end. She didn't come from a highly influential family and she did what she had to do in order to survive. There is a scene in the first season with Tara knowing that her whole facade is over and maybe she won't ever fit in this world of pretend righteousness, sits in a luxurious bathtub adorning all the gold that she has collected so far, and that moment rightfully lets you breathe in all the complexities that someone like Tara holds. But a character like Tara gets written in such a bland manner in the second season of Made in Heaven, where she manipulates and blackmails her husband and her in-laws to get their family house. It is almost like watching two different shows because the character doesn't feel the same. Tara was a sadistic wannabe, but she was never a ruthless villain. She was a gold digger, but she was never emotionally detached. She has a much self-deprecating shift in her personality, and that never makes for good storytelling and most definitely not very pleasant TV watching. In the recent 2023 film Thank You for Coming, Bhumi Pitnekar plays a sexually dubious woman who searches for pleasure while constantly sleeping with men both old and young. There's a lot wrong with the film, but the majority of its problems lie in its promotional material. The film was marketed as a much needed lesson about sexual awakening for millions and millions of young women, but somehow the actors put forward a point of patriarchy and how it holds women from achieving their true potential, which actually isn't wrong at all. But the main lead of the film is such a morally questionable character that her stance on literally anything in life, but especially what's happening around her, feels entirely unimportant. The film does dare to explore female representation beyond just seeing them as objects and showpieces to use in songs and dances, but the lack of depth and nuance staggers the film quite a lot, hindering any form of real growth. Thank You for Coming tries to make strong points about womanhood and feminism, but none come across as genuine or sincere. The main character, Kanika, tries to forcefully initiate sex with a man while on other occasion tries to get married just because she thinks she isn't desirable anymore. She tries to sleep with her ex while his girlfriend is still present at the scene, and then she turns to her friends for all kind of sexual advices, who by the way are more dumb than she is. And somewhere in the middle of this mess of a film, the whole plot of evoking a sense of self-acceptance for women all around the world gets lost, and the film changes its direction with the messaging it tries to convey, with now the lead character shouting "Smash the patriarchy" at an annual school function. It's seriously a testament to how long a person can actually follow a mind-numbing narrative as this one. It also amazes me that this film was written by a woman, backed by a woman, and had women at the front and center, and they still couldn't come up with anything new than showing a woman shouting and yelling and throwing tantrums on screen for 2 hours straight. Look, I do believe feminism as a word and as a concept gets thrown around way too casually these days with no real sense of identity attached to the word. Bollywood has exploited female empowerment for a very long time, and in this mess of mindless, sexual, provocative, female-led films, actual stories of women's resilience and courage get all lost and never find and get their true respect. If you actually want to see great stories about women, from women, and to women, please go watch Pink, where a group of girls take stand against insurmountable odds and proclaim once and for all that their no means no. Or go watch Piku, where a daughter stands by railing father's side and how she as a single woman deals with relationships, marriage, love, and a constantly nagging father. Or maybe go watch Thappad, a subtle and a sincere portrait of domestic abuse and never letting go of your self-respect and who you are as a person. And for that matter, even Queen, Hichki, Bulbul, and so many other great female empowerment films. Rather than spending time on another mindless copy of a show that went off the air 20 years ago. One can always hope that one day the audiences accepts these films where women tell their own stories in their own ways without any restrictions and without any shame, and when we can finally stop hailing average mind-numbingly dumb films as next great masterpieces, and when we let good films actually breathe and not squash them under a weekly erotic female dump disguising itself as a feminist masterpiece. Hopefully some sense prevails and we actually let the art breathe, no matter how ugly or controversial it might be. And that's it from my side, everyone. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to chime in with your thoughts about what you thought about the video, and do you think that woke feminism is actually liberating, or is it slowly killing Bollywood? Also, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribing to the channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for stopping by, and I will see you on the next one.